This is the first time I've ever been recorded outside of court. So anyway, in the thank you very much for considering having me around. In the mid-90s, rather, Rotary was asked by actually one of the fellows, remember Paula Baker, to put our archive in there. So that we had a 5-column chest of drawers, so to speak, that had our archive in it. And this year, we were asked to move it. So thank you very much to Steve White. He and I moved it down the road on a cart, and we didn't get arrested. But anyway, it's now back in here. And after looking through it, I came by, and there's a lot of the stuff that we have is based on chips. And if anybody who's been in the club for a while will remember what chips was like. And there's what was mailed out. In 1919, they started mailing these out from, and if you just pass them, you can see what it is. They were, and these were the record on which I reviewed, and there are probably 1,000 of them. So I'm not representing that I know a lot, but I know a lot. But I've missed a lot too, simply the tedium of going through one thing after the other. There's also pictures, there's slides, and there's clippings. So, and also flags and banners, all sorts of stuff that I never really got into during the period of time. But so what I'm telling you is there's enough material here for more talks, and so I'm politicking. No, I'm not. Okay, so I wondered, with all that information, how was I going to organize it and make it interesting, knowing that the mind can only absorb as much as the seat can withstand. So old joke. So anyway, there's 2 periods that I decided to look at. And one was 1919, just because of the origin story. And the other one was 1958. And it's a range in there. It's about 10 years of 1919 and about 12 or 15 years from 1958 forward. And the reason I did was basically those are 2 periods that are similar, but not the same. And 1919, you got to remember, that was 1 year after World War I, right? It was 6 months after the Spanish flu went through here. So you can imagine the social upheaval that was going on. We were also coming into the Roaring 20s. Vermont Marble, Howe Scale, the slate industries, and all the machinery companies that was to support those industries were booming. So we had a huge economic revival or going on in the fabric of a dislocated culture and society. 1958, just out of the Korean War. We just had we understood what the atomic bomb was like. We were in the atomic age. We had the Cold War. So very dislocating. I mean, people our age remember going underneath the practicing for an atomic explosion by going underneath our desks and kissing our ass goodbye, right? The air raid. The air raid. So anyway, very disruptive social. But in here in Rutland area, GE just announced a huge expansion. That's when Seward Road was built. Metro Mail came in, large employers, and more business forums. So what we had was about 2,000 jobs being created. Same type of thing. Well, how did Rotary react in those environments? Well, in the beginning, in 1919, and probably much earlier, there was a fellow by the name of Roger Pike, and of the Kinney, Pike, Bell, and Connor, right? I knew Roger Pike. He was on the agricultural society with the fair. It was his father who apparently got 24 other like-minded people to say they wanted to make a Rotary Club. So in the rules and regulations of such things, what they had to do is have a club sponsor them into Rotary. That was Fitchburg. Fitchburg, Massachusetts, sponsored Rutland City Rotary. Rutland City Rotary was the first Rotary Club in the state of Vermont. A lot of firsts with us. It was very, very interesting. The first meeting was on November 17th. Roger Pike held it. And then December 1st, they laid out what the protocols were. And so we were talking about stuff like, where are we going to meet? What are we going to do? Let's have a social thing. This is where their solution. The meeting was every Monday. So the Monday meetings are traditional to the very beginnings of this club. The meetings were held the first every Monday of the year, except for holidays. The first Monday of the month was a dinner meeting, and that's when Rotary Anns could come. Pardon me, Rotary Anns, the wives. All right. Oh, I gotta point out these things, right? So, so what happened was we had a luncheon meeting all Mondays except for the first Monday of the month, where you had a dinner meeting with your wife or your spouse and it was a social gathering. These people were singers and instrumentalists. They loved to sing. So that's where our singing comes from. When they made the change, and we were at the Berwick for these meetings. In 1963, we had to go to the Bardwell just because the Berwick hadn't burned down yet, but it asked us to leave.
That's familiar. Now, for those of us who've only been in Rutland for 30-some odd years,
yeah.
The Berg was the one that created the pit?
Yes, that's right. A big, and in fact, that burned down in the 30s, and it was in, later. It was later than that. It burned out later than that, much later than that. Excuse me, get my dates mixed up. So in the inventory of moving from the Berwick to the Bardwell in 1963, there was a piano. There was there was a record player. There was there was other public address system. The piano was given to the Chaffee and I don't even know if it's there. But that's how much we were into music. There was a committee chair of music, and we were expected to sing or perform. So there was quite a bit of acting out. And just to continue the progression, 1963 Bardwell. In 1990 we went to the Palms. And then because somebody didn't like pasta, we went to 3 Tomatoes for a period of time. We'll leave that alone. And then, as far as I can tell, everybody remember going to 121 West? We had about 4 meetings at 121 West. That's where the West Street Grill is currently. We went back to the Palms after that, and then, of course, the Elks, and now the American Legion. Quick thing, the luncheon was 60 cents, and the dinners were $1.35. They were sit down. They included everything you wanted plus tip, dessert. The luncheon at 60 cents is equivalent to $8.40 in today's money, and $18.90 for dinner. Every year during that, right from the beginning, they did a Christmas program. They had very elaborate, from the schools and from performing arts, they would always have a gala, a Christmas event. So there's that. We were very close to Paul Harris, it appears. In 1920, a year after being formed, the president, Mr. Only, went to Chicago and met with Paul Harris and visited with him. So so what were we interested in? We were interested in the youth. They gave $400 to, and it was, I can't describe where they gave it, but it was for playground equipment. $400 in 1919 is $5,600 today. There isn't any, in the beginning, it looks as if everything came out of their own pocket. It wasn't long before they developed out of their interest in youth. And you got to remember, there wasn't any youth activities during that period of time. There was no playgrounds. There was no, you might play stickball but there was no organization. So what they did is they put together in 1921 a skating rink at Rotary Park. And they had an attendant, and that attendant took care of the warming hut and the ice, and they charged for that. And that is some way that they raised money. And that skating rink went on for about 12 years, that type of thing. The other thing they did, which was kind of fascinating to me, in 1921, they started a Marble Valley men's basketball tournament. It was, now Marble Valley, I played Marble Valley and you did too, but this is everybody. This is everybody from Wallingford to Fairhaven. And what they did at the Armory is have a basketball tournament. And they gathered money, they put it on, and got the proceeds from that. And that was one way they raised money. In 1924, the headmasters had been formed. Headmasters were coaches and athletic directors of the high schools. And they came in and muscled us and said, we want half the proceeds. They took half the proceeds of our labors until 1958 when they took it all. The interesting thing was, given the fact that we were was the first one in Vermont, we also were great janitors of other Rotary clubs. In 1921, we sponsored Claremont. In 1922, it was Burlington. In 23, it was Montpelier, St. Johnsbury. In 27, it was Brandon and Pulteney and West Rutland. In 28, it was Wallingford. In 68, it was Fairhaven. In 72, it was Killington, Pico. And sometime after that, I didn't get it because I wasn't in that area, but I know we did Rutland South.
75, I think.
Was it 75?
Yeah.
So I didn't get into that period of time. So there was, they tell me 12. I can't only get 11, but there's 12 that we supposedly sponsored. And that's the genesis for that.
Did you say Pittsford in there anywhere, or no?
Pittsford was,
Maybe Brandon.
Brandon was in there. You know, Pittsford might have been the one that I'm missing.
That could be. It could have been Brandon.
That's, yeah. Yeah, Brandon was in 27.
Pittsford used to.
Pittsford may have been the one, though. You're right. You're right. So, so generally, in the background of that, in that cultural environment, what they look to do is to enrich our lives. And during that period of time, in the middle of the 20s, they actually built a above-ground municipal swimming pool. Right, that was built down in where the Rotary Park is, where that parking area is, and that used to be owned by the Chaffees, and they had it for sale for $5,000. That whole space, that and the area where people were where we play games now. When they found out that Rotary was interested, they reduced the price from $5,000 to $3,000, and we bought it over the course of 3 years or something. And on that space, we built, with our labor, built the warming hut that is, I don't know what has happened to it, but then also a swimming pool. And all that came out of funds that we provided. I can't tell you how much, but that's where that came from. So what I'm saying is that during that upheaval in the cultural time, there was these, and it turned, by the mid-30s, we were up to over 70 men in the club, and they were interested in the welfare of the younger generation of that type of thing. So that's that's that. Now what about 1958? And now we come to the flags. 1958, I'll never forget one of the first meetings that I attended when Olin, oh God, no, wrong name. Sorry. Yeah, let me get that. When Erling Ullman, there we go, Erling Ullman, he was in the 10th Mountain Division. They had some of the worst fighting in World War II. That man stood up and talked about something, and he said, now I want to treat you to something, and he broke into a a cappella song. These guys were so much into singing and camaraderie and just knowing that, that we should be together and work and to build a better life. And it was peace through friendship. And that's what we see over here. There are, let's see what we got. The flags came from this. We have over 230 flags from around the world. Everywhere from Zaire to Iceland to Malaysia to South Africa to Argentina, Bolivia, and on it goes. I'll just give you this.
And a lot were destroyed in the flood.
And some were destroyed in the flood, you're right. A lot of them. And there's the United States. We also have 70 from around the country. So why do we have such flags? Well, during this period of time, and remember, all these men were, and by the way, I'm 39 as far as I can remember. I look in the mirror, but it's different. But these were men of that age. They had fought in a world war. They had come up through, and they were they dedicated themselves to service above self. And how do you do that in a world just torn apart and all full of change? You invite people to be your friend and understand them. So to do that, they instituted a homestay program. And the homestay program, get over here. The homestay program ran from 1961 to 1987. What happened was that there was a national or international convention that was held in, not Plattsburgh, but the other one, Lake Placid, thank you, Lake Placid. And what they would do is they would write an invitation to every person that might be coming to that to say, please come to Rutland first and we will entertain you. And so what happened was that we had during those, from 61 to 87, we had all these people come and when they came from all around the world. And just take a look at where these people came from. And they brought flags. That is the tradition that we do when we visit other people. But here's programs of what those things were like. I'm running out of them. What those things were like. And so just take a minute and what do you see in there? Where are they from? What strikes you?
Everywhere.
Everywhere.
South Africa.
Yeah. Any place else? Anything else strikes you that you see there? And so we entertain these people usually for 2 nights, so people would stay overnight with us, and that was their idea. That is the idea of service above self and bringing people in to understand other cultures and other ideas. So
they did take time out for what they refer to here as attitude adjustment.
what I noticed was, and by the way, I'm going to take this up on a personal level, but the cocktail hour went from 5:30 to 7. And then we had dinner.
Longer than eating.
Yeah, that was good. So that that's what the type of thing. Now, the other interesting part to this is that we are with socially. So they went to Lake Placid, and in '58 there was whoever did the chips at any time had the propensity to be editorializing, which was good. It was added some color, but this is what they wrote about what we should do with the homestay program and the club that was in Lake Placid. In the opinion of our editor, it is a time for Rotary International to give the Lake Placid Club to understand that when the present contract expires, it will not be renewed unless Lake Placid Club removes the racial and religious restrictions under which the club operates at times when there's no convention meeting there. So they excluded blacks and Jews, you know that. And that was before we started. And so we wouldn't do anything unless they changed the way they acted, which is that was in 1950, was it 1958? Let's see, where is that? I got 58, yeah, September 30th, 1958. So, and remember, these people wanted to bring people in. They had been across the world. They had fought and risked their lives. And they were, so anyway, that was kind of an interesting approach. So there's that. By the way, I'm so glad we did away with the attendance requirement. They harangued every meeting about makeups and do this and do that. They had prizes for perfect attendance. They had dinners for 2 that they gave away for a year to encourage attendance. So thank you that we don't have to put up with that. So then there. What's that? 33, yeah. We had. So I wanted to also go up what we did for fundraising to give us some ideas about what to do, or maybe what not to do. Okay, so I will tell you in the 1920s, I told you that it was directed towards youth activities. They purchased Rotary Park from the Chafees, the skating rink, the basketball tournament, and that's what they did there. So it was kind of obscure. They used probably a lot of money out of their own pocket. But from the 50s to the 80s, we had the penny sale. Anybody, I came in '83, and they had the penny sale for another 2 years after that. And this is the type of thing that they would do. And they would gather all these prizes. And in the armory, along with a raffle, people would come in and buy things for pennies. There's a block of cheese in here. There's that type of thing. When I was listening at the end, in '82 or '83, '84 type of thing, there was distress around the table because it didn't appear the people who were buying things could afford what they were buying. There was a sense that we were preying on others. And so that's probably the demise of it. Plus, I think people lost interest in given all the effort to do that, that type of thing. So they had another one. I love this one, fruitcakes. They sold fruitcakes. In 1957, they sold 2,000 fruitcakes for $3.25 each, and they made $700. But that was
100 fruitcakes.
But
I understand they use those fruitcakes to build an addition on.
yeah, right. So here's a cool one. They had a thing called the Capon Project. Now you couldn't do it in this day and age. What they did is they gave some number, up to 20, I believe, of 4-H students $4, and they were to buy capons, chicks, and raise them during the summertime. And then there was a meeting that was reserved that they would bring their dressed and prepared capons and sell it back to the club. And that went on for many years, many years. That was kind of cool. You heard about the basketball tournament, and that went from 21 to 58. So, I mean, we probably made a lot of money on that. One thing that I do remember, which was kind of distressing, just because it was a lot of work, condo sales. We had a condo that we sold for 2 years. And in the first year, we made 60 grand. We also sold $120,000 worth of tickets. And by the way, that 60 grand, 50 of it went to the hospital. Bingo. Anybody remember bingo from the 80s? What a killer. That was one day we made all sorts of money, and then they stopped smoking. Yeah. That's right. Yeah.
Another fundraiser that we had problems with because people that couldn't afford it were benefiting.
Well, that's it. Yeah, that's it. Another thing that I was asked to chair the Polio Plus campaign when it first came out, and being new to the area or new to the club, I said yes without asking. They asked me to raise 50 grand, and you know what? We had about 70 people in the club at that time, and by God, we raised 50 grand. I never forget calling Hal Maynard. Hey, Hal, can I have $5,000? I never did anything like that. And it was over a 5-year period, and of course, anyway, so we raised 50 grand. This club raised 50 grand for Polio Plus. It was extraordinary. I never thought we could do it. The ones that were ungodly amount of raffles. Everybody's got a raffle going on. Everybody remembers the golf tourney that we had, now pickleball. Here's a couple things that were kind of neat. Harry Chapin, remember the artist Harry Chapin? Somehow we got him to perform for us up at Pico. And when it got all done, we split with the Pico Ski Club, and we received $2,800 out of that. We also did a deal where we did something where we got part of the gate at Weston Playhouse. So yeah, kind of interesting. We sponsored Up With People. One of my daughters was in Up With People here locally. She didn't travel, but it was an opportunity that came, and if you sponsored them, and you got to put some work in, you got part of the gate. And the other thing we did, which I absolutely hated, was discount books. We would go to merchants, give us a thing, and we'd sell them. And oh God. So anyway, so there are some of the ideas of what we did. I just did the fundraising part because the amount of information about where and how much we gave is so scattered. That's another talk in and of itself. But what I did glean from the reading was from 1960 to 1986, we gave 108 donations to individual entities. So we might have given, like the United Way, we gave every year, but they only counted that once. So during that 26 years, we gave 106 different operations money. And the handwritten spreadsheets that have everybody's name on them and all the different, over the course, that was it. Have I worn everybody out yet? I've got a bunch of little details which I went down through, and there was a speaker at every or something, some type of presentation. In the beginning, they talked about in the 1920s, early 1920s, they would have two people come together and they say, okay, give us the pros about why there's attorneys, give us the cons about why there's attorneys, and they would have a debate. And all it was an intellectual exercise. They didn't pick anybody out, but that's what they would do. And it was about insurance. You'd think about something that was topical, and they'd bring it up. So we had these type of presentations. 1962, there was a talk by the Mohawk Air Service. Mohawk Air. I've flown on Mohawk back when I was a teenager. They flew in and out of Rutland. Why the hell does Rutland have an airport? Why? What reason? We've got Burlington, we've got Albany. It was because of World War II. And the reason we needed to have a civil defense and to make sure that we had the ability to, I don't know, launch airplanes or some friggin' thing. But that's why. That's why. It's World War II. World War II. We had a presentation in 1972 about Act 250. Pearl Buck spoke to us in 1971 about why she chose us and why she chose Vermont to settle and some of her experiences in China. In 1970, Attorney General candidate Tom Salmon spoke to us, and retired Governor Phil Hoff. 69, Jim Jeffords spoke to us as the Attorney General. Dean Davis, past governor in 1968, and the author of Act 250, and he spoke quite eloquently about the destruction of our scenic byways and our scenic areas by over zealous development. We helped Wallingford install a kitchen before they even were in 1965. Here's one. So all these people traveled around the world. Not only did people come to us, but because we met them, we went and visited them. We went to all over the country. And one of the fellows who was a founding member called Ernie Erickson, he was in Bolivia visiting a Rotarian friend, and a coup broke out. He almost never got out. Press Smith talked to us 3 or 4 times. 1965, he talked to us about what was going on. 65, we also got to talk about the expansion of GE in Rutland Town.
You should tell people who Press Smith is.
Press Smith is the founder of the Killington Mountain, right? 1968. He worked with my father when he was Speaker of the House when he came up in 1957 to try to get Killington going, which they did. William Fox, Secretary of the Navy, we had a dinner and a speech for him. Bobby Locke came, and all my golfing buddies. Bobby Locke, who's Bobby Locke? He was from South Africa. He was a professional golfer and very well known. He married a Rutland girl. He played at Proctor Pittsford. So there's that. Let's see here. Oh, there was an Olympic skier in 1959 now saying that Rutland was the center of Eastern skiing. It is. 1960, Bill Beck, U.S. Women's Olympic ski coach, came and spoke to us. Had a lot to do with the Girl Scouts. It's now dead and gone, but at the end on Tamarack Lane, up off of Wheelerville, there was or is a Girl Scouts camp. We built a Girl Scout building up there for them, and they got all sorts of pictures, people digging holes and doing their thing. Let's see. Oh, here's a good one. 1958, the Commissioner of Taxes spoke to us, and he informed us that Vermont was in the top 3 per capita for income tax. I don't know if it's changed. Here. 1958, Dr. Ed Riemann, dentist Dr. Ed Riemann, spoke to us about the benefits of fluoridization. Oh, God. Al Moulton. Anybody remember Al Moulton at all? Al Moulton. Al Moulton hired me when I first came back to Vermont. He was the CEO of Quechee Lakes, but he was under my. He was he was an economic development guy. He ran the chamber. He ran the state Republican Party, and also was in Vermont State Development Corporation, that type of thing.
I met him in Brattleboro in 1967.
Wasn't
I moved to Brattleboro.
wasn't he dynamic?
He was
Bill?
dynamic, and
Oh.
he was the head of the Chamber of Commerce.
Oh yeah.
And you know, he coined the term Vermont, the beckoning country.
Yeah, yeah, did he? Okay, yeah.
He coined that term.
He was around here. What a firecracker he was.
Subsequently, his daughter was the economic development
Yeah.
director for the state of Vermont.
That's right, that's right. And I worked with Patty when I was at Quechee Lakes. So here's an interesting one. In 1960, we had a Dr. William Mayer talk to us about PTSD, I've got that wrong, from the Korean War. So that was something that the military knew about. And all of a sudden, anyway, just a kind of a weird thing. We had Eisenhower's economic advisor speak to us in 1962. Okay, I'm quick. I'll be almost done here. 1969, we were the second. Now, Rotary International is an independent, not independent, but it's an adjunct organization, and you had to be part of it. We were the second club in the country to be assigned Rotary International. The first one was Chicago. And there was some talk in the minutes like, we should have been first, but Chicago got in there ahead of us. Weird. They must have had extraordinary contacts. 1972, we had 112 members. Okay, so, and then Paul Harris came in 1932 to speak to the club. And in 1928, he also came. In 1929, Sinclair Allen spoke to us. Sinclair Lewis, excuse me, that was an old neighbor, Sinclair Allen. Sinclair Lewis, the jungle, you know that one. Okay, and this is one that I really want to get to, but this is time for another talk. In 1987, Rotary was told that it must admit women, right? Okay. Well, well, there you are. There you are. So there's a lot of stuff going on there. There's also, we were the first club to admit people of color. We had 3 people of color in our, and I defy you to get through those 3. If anybody can tell me them.
Ernie Royal.
Well, Ernie Royal. Who else? And who else?
DJ. DJ.
DJ?
Who's a disc jockey?
Oh, excuse me. Okay, that's right. 4. We got 4. I'll let you stew on it. Let you think about it. He worked for the city of Rutland, and he lived in Proctor, and I went to school with his kids. Let's see. So like I say, in 1987 we were required. 2 years later, 14% of the club was women, and 2 of them were gay. The last fellow that you're thinking of or didn't think of is a fellow by the name of, oh God, come on, jeekers, Lyman Stiles. Lyman Stiles was the city engineer. He was. You remember him. You remember him. This is a quick story with my mother. They had younger kids, 2 boys and a girl. And they lived in Proctor, went to high school, and Adam was the boy. And I graduated and went to college, and I came back in the summer of 72, I guess it was, and found out that the family had moved. Went back to their hometown of Baltimore. Well, why did they go? Well, that's too bad. I thought he had a good job. Yeah, everything was fine. He liked it. But Adam was getting to where he was dating. And the parents wanted them to go back to Baltimore. Sort of an off-color story, but that was one that I experienced. But the point is that this club has always been open. In 1919, we had at least 3 members that were Jewish that I could identify. And so we had always been open and welcoming to people that had the same vision that we did of improving man's place. So That's my topic. If anybody wants to ask any questions, I got a bunch of other stories. I can't get them out, but anyway.
Is your historical review